All right, welcome to another video from the chart readers. I normally say this at the end, but I just want to say sincerely thank you so much for watching all these videos. I can't believe I've crossed 200 subscribers and I just get people watching that. It's still kind of crazy to me. So hey, thank you so much for just putting the time into these. You could be doing way better things, but you're here and I do appreciate that. So with that, let's get into the meat of it. We are going to do the bank and lending section. This video has actually become pretty popular and is now in the weekly rotation. So we will do what we always do, right? We will look at the daily and the weekly charts to see if there's any swing setting up. We have our 5 moving averages. We have these horizontal support and resistance lines that I do manually draw. And then when we are done up here, we use the MACD and the RSI as our lower indicator. So again, 80% of the work up here, 20% of the work down here. So the last time I made this video was on the 13th. That was a weekend. So we had just seen these 2 monster days, right? A lot of this is kind of tied to the NASDAQ itself, right? So I'm actually going to flash the NASDAQ really quickly a little bit later on, but there's a lot to be said about how this played out, right? So one of the big things that I stressed, number one, I said SOFI was well worth looking at on Monday, right? The 100 was clearly what needed to be broken, what we needed confirmation on, and really we just broken the 52, so there was a lot of, hey, where does the 50 sit with all this as well, right? Because again, this one right here, we broke these 2 lines, this one we broke this 1 line. So Monday played out with what was a doji, right? Again, real high wick, real low wick, not too much movement in the middle. And I've said it a number of times, you cannot use this as your confirmation, okay? It is what it is. A doji means uncertainty, right? Some people thought it was ready to break the 100 and fly. A lot of people thought it wasn't. Actually, 50% candles about here. You know I talk about 50% candle often, right? So I'm glad it at least stayed over 50. But nonetheless, this wasn't the confirmation. Even with the 50 break, this wasn't the confirmation. That doesn't really work for me very well, right? From here, look, this day obviously started up here, and again, a lot of reason to be happy, but we're talking about finishing, right? We're looking at daily candles. We need the day to finish to get our info, right? And what ended up being a pretty bad drop brought us here. The one problem is it actually did worse than the day before. So the day before we ended, where is it? I mean, you can kind of see it on the line, right? We ended here at, where did it close? 586. And then on this day, it was 585. Again, I know it's only a penny difference, but I don't like it when you do worse than the day before. I'm here saying at least do better than 50%, right? Don't do worse than the entire day. So this actually wasn't good. And again, look, we're battling the 100, right? We've clearly failed it 3 days in a row. And I mean, this was just really bad, right? We're now well below 50%. We're still over the 8, so hey, there's maybe some hope, right? But look, by this point, we're starting to see a curve here. By this point, you can see the green is under the red. There's a good amount to worry about, right? There's things not looking good. Clearly right here, you should have gotten out because again, you're now under it. Definitely could have waited for confirmation and at least avoided this day. I mean, a 6% loss in one day is not a good thing, right? So, you know, there's a lot to be said right here. Again, I think a lot of this though, I'm just going to go to Comp Q, which is NASDAQ. And again, you'll see the last few days, Monday especially, right? These were all just not great days. We went from up to a lot of sideways and really a little bit of a downward sideways, right? So again, when the NASDAQ does bad, individual stocks will do worse. And again, it didn't look like NASDAQ did horrible, but SOFI is still very much an unproven company. This thing is not a bank. This thing is literally, I mean, look, I'm simplifying it a lot, but this was, I'm sure at one point, a couple people in either a garage or a dorm room or, hey, a small office, right? Like this is not an established company yet, right? So, hey, they definitely own the naming rights to the stadium that I'm not too far from in LA, but remember what SOFI is. This is an early stage company. They just became public and there's still a lot to prove. And again, if NASDAQ doesn't do well, this is not going to do well. It's real simple as that though, right? But again, a lot to be said about this 100 battle, a lot to be said about what good confirmation looks like. And then again, once you lose a cluster, it gets really bad, right? So a lot of actually to see on the, on the daily. On the weekly here, again, where are we at? Unfortunately, we are now under the 8, right? That is not a good place to be. And in fact, we were actually under the 8 last week. So we went from breaking the 20 and the 8 in 1 week, right? Because again, the previous one we were below to now being underneath, right? Hey, look, I'm at least glad the weekly has stopped this hardcore drop and is now kind of starting to move horizontal. That's generally how things go, right? And the big question will be, is this thing gonna break up and try to go near the 50, or is it gonna, kind of like it's doing now, go down, right? And look, this line is our all-time low number. If we start to lose 484, that is going to be really bad. I'm liking this RSI, but again, 80% of the work is up here, not down here. And look how just choppy this RSI is. Be real careful here. Again, needs a good NASDAQ, and you can see even a relatively okay-ish to bad-ish NASDAQ is really bad for this, right? So just remember the stock you're looking at. That's really the point of it. BAC, Bank of America. Okay, look, again, I very much have been banging the drum on how nice this thing has been going up the 8, right? Again, last week I talked about, actually, I think we were pretty happy with this last week, actually. If you really look, it was a little hard to see why this was going to fall. Obviously, I do have my line right here. Sometimes I get happy when my lines definitely work, right? But yeah, this could have fooled a lot of people if you actually had no money in, right? Because you get a good break and you get good confirmation. How high was okay, so you can see on the box over there, the RSI was at 80.81. Oftentimes I say an 80 RSI is just a little too high and you're gonna need to cool it down. This seemingly is a healthy bounce and a healthy cool down, right? It was able to use this cluster. Let me start zooming in, right? So again, we break the 100. We actually get good confirmation. Again, I'm really happy my line did it, but in all honesty, this should have ran. I'll say the high RSI was definitely something worth noting. We got look, above the 8, above the 8, we lose the 8, we lose the 8 again, but again, a beautiful bounce point, almost to the penny it looks like on that wick. Unfortunately, we didn't bounce over the 8. I would have loved to seen that. I'll take us still being over the 20. Let's not lose this 20. Let's maybe get back over the 8 and reattempt a break at this, what is that, 38.60, right? But look, our RSI went from, here in the 80s, sorry, oh man, my mouse moved too fast. Here in the 89 to 80 range, back down to 60. 60 is real good. It'll set up a good few days for sure, right? So hopefully we get to see the upside of the curve. It all starts with getting back over the 8, right? This needs to get over, what is that number? 37.63, okay? And obviously we want to see some confirmation. And honestly, that 63 cent and that 80 cent is a little tight. So hey, maybe just wait for that 80 to break. Oh, sorry. Oh, wait, there's actually a bit of, no, you can make that play if you want. There's about, it's not really 10 cents. I mean, no, it's not really 10%. Depends how you want to play it. This break would be safer, and again, there's a nice little uptrend, nice little downtrend that you'll kind of play off of. Maybe a little bit of a resistance right there around 39-ish. But yeah, the safer place would be just wait for this to break and go. Hey, if you want to nibble a little bit, at least wait for the 6 to break and then, see what you want to do. But again, loving this when it rides up. And again, Dow Jones did really well. So this did really well, right? And obviously Bank of America is just a little bit more established. I don't even want to say a little bit, a lot more established than SOFI, right? So just keep all that in mind. Man, this weekly really speaks to a lot of what happened, right? Obviously you see the monster here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good weeks in a row. That's literally 20 trading days in a row, right? No, 25. Sorry, 5 times 5 is 25. That's beautiful. Even just these, though, these would be the 20, right? Because this is where you break it and you ride it up, right? Nonetheless, you see here, right? We obviously broke the 50, never got the confirmation, couldn't get over the 100, and then just making our way down, right? So, yeah, looks like this 50 might be rough. And in all honesty, we need to at least get I want to get here, right? That'll give me 50% of this previous candle. And I mean, 50% is probably up here, right? But yeah, that 3760 range, I'll take that. I'll be really happy with that if we can close there. By what is it, Wednesday? I don't know if there's trading on Friday, I'll be honest. I probably should have checked that before I made this video. Again, there is a holiday in the US, so there will be a shorter week than normal. Okay, so looking at Wells Fargo, again, same kind of story that we saw on Bank of America. The one thing I remember saying about this was that this RSI was a little lower. So I really was hoping that this thing would do a nice bounce off the 8 and go up. Really, this kind of went down. Again, Dow Jones was all right. I'll quickly flash the DJ30. My cat's at the door. I think I'm going to have to let her in soon. Again, a little bit choppy, but still overall up. Interesting to see that, right? Again, Monday started here. No, sorry, Monday started here and ended right here. But again, you can see through the week, it actually did get a little higher. So technically, the Dow Jones did do well. I'm surprised Wells Fargo wasn't. Oops, that's not Wells Fargo. I'm surprised Wells Fargo. Oh shit, this is an interesting chart right here. This obviously was not the video I was intending to make. Take a look at WFCF, Where Food Comes From Inc. I have never heard of this thing. There's a really nice horizontal break that just happened. I like that it just broke this right here. And that's actually not that bad a candle. Make sure the volume's good here. I have no idea what the volume is. See what the volume was this day and this day. As long as we stay over 1230, yeah, let's go to the round number. Let's go 1230, 1225 even. That's a better number. This could be an interesting play. 74, there might only be another day or two, but I have no idea what we're looking at here. Oh man, this might want to make a run here. Jeez, look at that gap fill. What did we just stumble on here? Okay, so I would, and I'm going to right now, create an alert around there. I think at like 1548, I would like to know. Interesting, because again, right there, right? Oh, I should have made it a little bit lower. But if this thing can break, what did this actually close at? 1530. 1530 is a real interesting point for this stock. We're obviously looking at the weekly one more time, right? Daily might cool down a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, I have an interesting, and we're actually not that far from that point. So I got to go back to Wells Fargo. That was the point of this. But Where Food Comes From Inc., watch that bad boy tomorrow. That might have been a good accident going between the Dow and Wells Fargo. Hilarious, actually. Again, where are we here? It looks like, yeah, we are over the 8, right? We actually are over the 8. Yeah, we're at 88 cents and the 8 was at 83 cents. So I'm happy to see us over the 8. We definitely bounced a little lower than I wanted to, right? I'm sad we lost the 20 here. Glad the 200 caught us right here. And then again, between here and here. Make sure we get good confirmation tomorrow. But again, this RSI is low. If we can start peaking up, if this thing would break the 47.20, this should come up to basically 48. I would see us breaking this and then making another attempt at this. So Wells Fargo actually could be worth watching tomorrow. Rocket, a lot like SOFI, and I'll be honest with you, this definitely could have fooled a lot of people, right? So a couple things to talk about. So again, last video was made on the 13th, so we saw what was a monster gap up over both lines and the 50, as well as a monster gap from, are we showing after hours trading? Let me get rid of after hours, only regular hours. I don't know how much that's going to change some of the other ones. I'll probably just zoom back real quick to see if there's anything silly. But look, again, let's just talk about this real quick. So this day we break 3 lines, okay? This day gives us confirmation of these 3 lines, but now reestablishes this new break of the 100, right? The following day definitely was bad for two reasons. One, there's a little bit of a doji here, right? It's not an extreme doji. It's none of these three, right? But, you know, it is a little bit more doji than I like to see. Two, though, just it actually closed under the 100, right? It opened and closed under the 100. Not a good thing. So when this happened, look, I know it looks good, especially when you go here. But this is not a continuation. This is literally a new break now because this was their fail. Now this just happened. I need one more day before I'm going to go in, right? And look, on this day, I can already see it peaking up there. The RSI was 76, right? Around that 75 to 80 range, we definitely start ringing the bell. So this was definitely a little bit on the higher side, right? So couple things to see. Obviously, after this day, you can see green went under the red on the RSI, and then it just starting to lose the 8 a little bit more than ideal, right? Couple things. Number one, obviously, I hope it gaps back up and gets over the 8. This definitely cannot go lower than these, right? I do not want to lose the 20 and the 50, right? This is a nice golden cross. This is also a nice golden cross, but I wish it was a little steeper. I don't know if this is just going to kind of start going more horizontal, right? Not really be a definitive golden cross. And again, I talked about it. This kind of wanted to go through the 100 and be a nice one, but again, it's kind of curving out. Oh, I didn't let my cat in. I gotta let my cat in. Sorry. All right, welcome. All right, sorry about that. So again, not a lot of good here, right? We're definitely 2 days under, not a great RSI. Hopefully we get a good NASDAQ, but my worry on NASDAQ was if we had a bad Monday, it would probably lead to a bad Tuesday and Wednesday just with the short week. So I was hoping for a better NASDAQ Monday, and that has me a little bit worried on Rocket. Hey, look, again, you can see it on the weekly, right? Clearly couldn't break the 20. I've said it a number of times. You need a good weekly so you can have a bunch of good dailies, right? That is what's nice. I mean, again, it looks like a good RSI, right? But we've just been so tight right here. It's almost irrelevant, right? So I'm reading into the loss of the 20 and, I mean, kind of coming up on 50% candle from this monster right here, right? So this kind of seems like it wants to come back down to 7 in my opinion, unless we bounce off 720. So, and then whereas, yeah, again, 720 comes, these two lines are probably more significant than the 720 on the daily, right? So if we lose these two, it will be bad. It'll look even worse on the daily, and it'll basically come down to the 7, like I said, right? So, oh man, yeah, you can't lose 7. Oh, okay, I see what happens. Yeah, you don't want to lose 7 because then you're coming here. So, Rocket, be careful. As optimistic as I was last week, I'm definitely that much pessimistic this week. Not a great sentence, but I think you know what I meant. LDI. Okay, look at LDI. What's happened, right? Really, really nice riding of the 8 up. 1, 2, 3. There was 4. Where was the 200? Oh, we were far from the 200. But nonetheless, and then look, when you're that far from the 200, that's where you kind of start believing my lines a little bit more. But yeah, look, I mean, just a little bit of a fail. Definitely looked like it was going to be a good bounce, which would have fooled a lot of people, but then just bad confirmation down, right? So again, as you start coming in the cluster, I always talk about it being really hard to break up or down. You want those good confirmations. Right now we're in, that's a really interesting upswing on the 8. I don't know why. A nice little upswing there too. Again, this is a little tight, but hey, look, if this can break 161 with confidence, I mean, there's a lot of good that can come from this if the NASDAQ turns well. You know, Loan Depot, again, they're not as techy as I would say, you know, SOFI and Rocket are. But again, this is a newer, not a bank loan company, right? In a lot of ways, this is nothing more than a bunch of people behind a computer, which I kind of throw into the NASDAQ lump, right? It's very, very basic view on a company, and I'm sure that probably offends someone if anyone from the company watches this. But it keeps you in check of where to like keep these in buckets, right? Bank of America, Wells Fargo, I by no means put those in the tech bucket. I feel like they want to be, but they just aren't, you know? And this is the opposite side. I think they want to establish themselves as a steady Dow Jones company, but you're not. You're just some startup Loan Depot company, right? So just keep all that in perspective. But super tight cluster, monster things would happen if it breaks the 100. Real bad things would happen if it loses the 50. Let's look at the weekly real quick. Ah, man, yeah, not a great weekly, right? It looked like it wanted to break both. Definitely lost this confirmation. You cannot use a doji as your confirmation. And again, the last couple weeks have been bad. Definitely losing the 20 and now in the way of losing the 8. So not looking good on the weekly, which is a little pessimistic on the daily. Kind of seems like this bad boy might lose the 50. This is definitely a good support line, so I could see it coming down to 130. Real sad here. This thing needs a little bit of love from the market. Yeah, for sure. Last but, oh no, did I do it again? Okay, interesting. Okay, I can tell you already this is a bad stock to look at, so we're not even going to talk about it. You do not, look, on a daily chart, the worst thing you can see is something like this, a bunch of lines in a row. This means the volume is so insignificant, you will lose silly money. This was a bad fat finger typo is what that was. The other one, the where food Inc. comes from, I still haven't forgotten the where food Inc. comes from, I promise you. That's gonna go, when I am done with this video, I'm gonna go to my charts, I'm gonna click the one, and I'm gonna do a very deep analysis on where food Inc. comes from, or whatever the hell that thing was, whatever, man. I'll tell you, one of the funny things about technical analysis is you will throw thousands of dollars on these random letters that you have no idea what they mean just because it looks like it's going to break and technicals look good, right? So use stop losses, use stop sells, right? Again, I'm not in front of my computer, right? So if and again, I'm completely making this up, right? If I buy something over this line, oftentimes I will put a sell at this line, or this line. And again, I'm obviously going to do something a little different when I look at this thing, right? Like sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. I'll be real honest with you guys. But, you know, that's how I play it, right? I'm not in front of the computer all day, right? I'm making a buy. I'm putting a little sell here, a little sell here, the full escape here, right? And then I'm putting a stop loss, hey, maybe here, right? I'm willing to lose X amount, hoping that I, you know, make my way up, and that's how I play my risk reward game. So if you're really watching all the way to the end, that's what you get here. Just a little bit of like strategy, I would call it. Overall, look, Lending Club looks real bad, right? I think that that's a good amount to say. It looks like, sorry, I keep zooming in and out. It looks like this 20 is going to be an issue, right? I know it looks like there was a good break here. That said, obviously the 50 rejected it and it wasn't caught by the 20. If you're going to go up and fail and then you keep going, it's bad. If you're going to go up, come back, and then bounce up, that means you've actually established yourself with the line. If you're going to go up, fail, and then fail again, this 20 hasn't been won yet. So really, Lending Club needs to definitively win the 20. And look, I mean, we haven't been over the 20 in a pretty long time. It's been at least 3 months, right? And then, oh yeah, it's super shy. I have to go back to see a good break of the 20. But yeah, just keep in mind the 20 is going to be our struggle here. So hey, one more time, I appreciate all your time. I hope you are learning, and yeah, enjoy the holiday. Have a great one.